They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes one hell of a ride to raise an adult. And I am here to tell you that through all those trials and tribulations is where your empathy develops, is where your compassion grows. So hold on to the sock, and I'm going to tell you why. When we're kids, life is simple. We want what we want when we want it. But if we don't get it, well, we just cry and tantrum until we do. If we fall and scrape our knee, we expect mom or dad to come running. In fact, we demand it, and they do. We're then comforted and told everything's gonna be okay. Life is good. Life is fair. The world is at our disposal. As we grow up, however, the rules change. Our parents start setting boundaries, and we slowly learn that we can't have everything we want whenever we want. It's hard at first, but we adapt. We learn to control our emotions and delay gratification because we now understand that there are consequences for our actions. Life is not always fair. The world doesn't revolve around us. And yet, somehow, we manage to adapt once again. As a young adult, we enter a world that seems full of opportunities, possibilities, and adventures. The future is ours for the taking, but with that comes responsibility, and the consequences for not living up to those responsibilities are real. Bills to pay, relationships to maintain, commitments to honor. We learn quickly that life isn't always kind, that the world can be a dark and dangerous place, and that we can't always rely on other people to help us. We learn to dig deep within ourselves to find the strength and resilience to keep moving forward. It's during these times that our true character is forged. We are tested, challenged, and stretched beyond what we thought possible. But it's in this struggle, this overcoming of obstacles, that we discover our greatest strengths, and we learn the true meaning of empathy and compassion. You see, we humans are social creatures. We live in groups and rely on each other for support and understanding. When we see someone struggling, we naturally want to help. But sometimes we don't know how to help. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for help ourselves. Other times we may feel like we don't deserve help, or that our problems aren't important enough to warrant it. That's why it's so important to go through tough times. It gives us perspective. It allows us to see the struggles of others more clearly and with more understanding. For example, let's imagine two people who both lost their jobs. One person might think, oh no, I can't afford to pay my bills, while the other might think, how am I supposed to feed my family? Each person has a different set of circumstances and therefore a different level of need. But by going through the experience of losing a job and having to struggle to make ends meet, the first person might gain a better understanding and empathy for the second person's situation. They would realize that everyone has different circumstances and that everyone's problems are equally valid. The same can be said for someone who goes through a divorce. They might not fully understand what someone else is going through in their divorce unless they've been through it themselves. And even then, every divorce is unique and every story is valid. But by going through a divorce, they learn to empathize and have compassion for others who are going through the same thing. This is the beauty of human connection. When we go through tough times and overcome them, we become stronger and more resilient. We also become more empathetic and compassionate towards others. We understand that everyone has their own story to tell and that everyone's struggles are valid. Some people might say, why does there have to be suffering? Why can't we all just be happy all the time? Well, the truth is that suffering is part of the human experience. It's something that we all have to go through in order to grow and learn. And yes, it's painful and it's difficult, but it's also necessary. Think about a butterfly. It starts out as an egg, then hatches into a caterpillar. The caterpillar eats and grows, then it builds a cocoon around itself and transforms into a beautiful butterfly. This process of metamorphosis is painful and uncomfortable, but it's also necessary for the butterfly to become what it was meant to be. The same is true for us. We all have the potential to be beautiful butterflies, but we have to go through the process of metamorphosis in order to get there. And that means going through tough times, facing our fears, and overcoming obstacles. Yes, it hurts, but it's worth it because it makes us stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. Imagine a world where everyone just gets everything they want whenever they want it. A world without struggle, without pain, without fear. What would that world be like? Well, it would be boring, unfulfilling, and shallow. That's because we need struggle and challenge in our lives to grow and learn. We need to face our fears and overcome obstacles in order to become the best versions of ourselves. So yes, life can be tough and the world can be a scary and unpredictable place. But that's okay because that's where our strength comes from. That's where our resilience comes from. And most importantly, that's where our empathy and compassion comes from. So next time you're going through a tough time, remember that you're not alone. We all have to face challenges in life, and we all have to find ways to cope with them. But by doing so, we become stronger, more resilient, more empathetic, and more compassionate. So embrace the suck and know that you're not alone. In fact, you're part of a much bigger community than you think. You're part of the human race, the most resilient and adaptable species that has ever existed. We have overcome countless challenges throughout history, and we will continue to do so long into the future. So don't be afraid to struggle. Don't be afraid to face your fears and overcome obstacles, because that's where your strength comes from. And most importantly, that's where your empathy and compassion comes from. I recently read a book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And in the book, he talks about how the obstacle in our way is actually the path to our goal. I couldn't agree more. Every obstacle, every challenge, every fear that we face is an opportunity for us to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. So I encourage you to embrace the suck. I want you to think about the challenges you've faced in your life and how they've made you stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. I want you to think about the obstacles you are facing right now and how they're reshaping you into the best version of yourself. Remember, you're not alone. We all have to go through tough times, but we all have the strength and the resilience to get through them. And when we do, we come out of it stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. And if you'd like to hear more stories of struggle, resilience, and hope, please consider watching some more videos. Thank you for listening.